Yesterday, we were at the point that fear drives the activities of the material world. The entire race or chase after material activities is because of that material insecurity, that fear, which is driving people crazy. So therefore, fearlessness is a very fearlessness is a liberating quality. Fearlessness is a liberating quality. Now, and Srila Prabhupada explains that this state of fearlessness is developed when one cultivates a very strong dependence of Krishna, strong dependence on Krishna. So much so that one is aware of, or so much so that one recognizes Krishna's presence at all times. And that is why the mention is there that even in the deep darkness of a desolate place or deep darkness of a forest, one is always thinking that Krishna is accompanying me. So this state of abhayam is coming from a very strong recognition of Krishna at all times, and a very strong acceptance of the relationship with Krishna as all in all important. So this state of fearlessness is not a kind of intoxication, is not a kind of illusion or a fantasy. It is not a kind of illusion or fantasy, or it is not a state of intoxication. In an intoxicated state, one tries to forget the reality. One does not steer through the reality. In an illusion, one is forgetting the reality, not steering through the reality. So it's not like somebody watching a horror movie. So that's illusion. So one gets some sense of perverted excitement watching a horror movie. That's illusion. So one is artificially making up a situation, and then trying to put himself in, and then trying to get some perverted excitement. Because if that happens in reality, nobody will be able to handle it. Like a ghost comes in reality, it would be very difficult to handle. The horror movie sometimes people can handle, but reality cannot be handled. So this clearly makes it a point that that is intoxication. That is sense of illusion. But this abhayam is not built on a state of illusion. This abhayam is rather false ego puts a person in a state of delirium. Sometimes people say, okay, be bold. be bold and daring. Actually, uh, the materialistic conception of being bold and daring is actually being mad. So that is madness. The person does weird things. He stopped thinking. He stopped hearing from anyone. He's bold and daring. So that is his. So the more the false ego is puffed up, the more the person is. That is madness. And how we can understand that is madness? Because it doesn't. So that kind of boldness or daring doesn't solve the problems of a person. The person may or may not achieve no the material no, money or finances, but definitely not able person cannot overcome the emptiness and the misery, the experience of misery of life. So uh, that point is an important point. So therefore we can understand its madness. So with positive cultivation of dependence to Krishna, what is happening is uh, one is aware of, or when one starts recognizing the presence of Krishna at all times, then what is happening there, because Krishna is so great and there is oceanic depth of warmth in Sanidhita of the Supreme Lord, that presence of misery remains, but it gets very much dwarfed because of the presence of Krishna. Because of the presence of Krishna in one's life. So situational ups and downs come in everyone's life, and they are going to come. That is the nature of this world. But when a devotee is with Krishna, then it doesn't matter for him, because whether material energy is giving opportunity or not, the gate is open or not, a devotee has sufficient gates on the spiritual plane in service to Krishna. So that is the point. So therefore one is abhayam, because then one is not insecure about anything, insecure about his material position. So he understands whether I am financially, materially successful or not, I still have good amount of engagements to serve Krishna. So it doesn't matter whether financial material success comes or not. Similarly about relationships, whether somebody acknowledges me or not, I still have service to Krishna. Whether somebody glorifies me or criticizes me, I still have service to Krishna. Now still I can chant the holy names, I can dance in the Mangalarti, I can distribute books, I can share Krishna's message. Whether somebody hears or not, I can go and share. That's the point. So that can give one abhayam, because now one has accessed a plane where there is no blockage. Material plane always blockage. The road is traffic is always jammed. So, but spiritual plane, the traffic is not jammed like that. And interestingly, the spiritual plane has a very positive impact on the material plane. And therefore, spiritual plane or accessing or going towards the spiritual plane is not illusion. because it has an impact on the material plane, is it? So so that means that an activity on the spiritual plane can repair the positioning or the layout on the material plane as well. That's the uh, that is the efficacy of the spiritual plane. So therefore, a devotee doesn't land up in the zone of insecurity. That's the interesting and important point which is explained here, because he can access so many doors, so many pathways, and therefore uh, uh, a devotee cannot, doesn't get choked up, blocked up. A devotee cannot, doesn't get blocked up. So this is abhayam. The next point is purifying one's existence. So here Prabhupada is giving the case study of a sannyasi, where Prabhupada is explaining that for a sannyasi, one is strictly forbidden to have an intimate relationship with the woman. Prabhupada gives Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's example. Although Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so kind and magnanimous, but he was following the injunctions of the particular ashram. Why that is to be followed? For the sake of purifying one's existence. So, and then Prabhupada is quoting Mahaprabhu that for the sake of uh, elevating oneself to the spiritual nature or going back to Godhead, so one who is aspiring to do that, even looking towards material possessions and women for sense gratification, not even enjoying them, but just looking toward them with such propensity is also condemned. So these are processes of purification. Prabhupada explains these are processes of purification. So in general, every ashram has its associated tapasya. And that tapasya is so arranged to purify the living entity or purify one's existence. So Krishna consciousness, the principle is the more serious we are, the easier it is going to be. The stronger we follow, the easier it is going to be. The loose we are, the more loose we are, the more difficult it's going to be. And when it's completely diluted, then there is no motion forward. That's why Prabhupada makes it very clear in his purports that sense gratification and Krishna consciousness go ill together. Ill together. So the point is, sense gratification, Krishna consciousness are not good. The more we add sense gratification, the less the fervor for Krishna consciousness becomes. That is an automatic phenomenon. That is why one has to be very serious. That is why one has to be very serious about this injunction. So, so when it comes to sannyasi, it is said that one should very strictly avoid association of money and wealth. So, even the thought is considered to be very risky, is considered to be very offensive or so serious that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is telling, better end up one's body rather than thinking like that. So this is to say that how strongly and seriously one should be focused on following it. That so that comparison of a suicide is given to highlight the point that one should take this very, very seriously. So in fact, sense gratification is poison for everyone, like that. So sense gratification is poison for everyone. So sense gratification is poison for everyone. So a sannyasi avoids sense gratification by keeping a distance from it. Is it? That's the principle which has been explained. In Vedic times, a brahmachari avoids money and women. How? Because so for a sannyasi, it's like distant because he is helping them out. No, he's helping men, women, everyone. But with women, is said, okay, maintain distance. That's for a sannyasi. For a brahmachari, no connection, nothing to give and take. In the actual Vedic, traditional Vedic system, the brahmachari, the student, has to stay in a forest, no connection with money, no connection with woman. Now, whatever the guru is offering, just accept that. No connection with money, no connection with woman. Zero. For a grihastha, the principle given is charity. As soon as you get money, offer it to Krishna. So that means, what do you have with you? Nothing. Only weed bag. Is it not? Like that. So charity is a principle which is highlighted. You see that principle will come in the list when Prabhupada explains about it. So the principle is the same. Principle is the same, like that. And then for a grihastha, there is limited connection with the with Mataji's, which is allowed. No, with limited connection with women, it is allowed. But it is said, then you take proper responsibility and proper care, and you take responsibility of engaging the wife in the service of the Lord. You know, and so when one does that, then it is purifying. That is the point. So then the seeds or the weeds of sense gratification get burnt off. So purification of existence or tapasya is like a fire which burns off these weeds of sense gratificatory desires. Like that. So when one accepts responsibility in a proper, according to the proper Vedic system, then that responsibility burns off the material propensities of sense gratification. It is going to burn off. So that is why that has to be undertaken as a tapasya. It has to be undertaken as a tapasya. So the material propensities have to be burnt off. So that means that uh, uh, for every ashram, the injunction is be careful about sense gratification. Is it not? No sense gratification. Either one is not interacting with the material energy at all, or one is maintaining a distance. That means indirectly, uh, indirectly, channelizing. That's what a sannyasi does. Through the system, through the arrangement, through his, through the system, through the arrangement, and now he is inspiring and engaging everyone, Prabhuji's, Mataji's, and Krishna service. Is it not? So it's indirectly. Is it not? It's not. It's not quite intimate. It's by the system, by the culture which he is creating, by the congregation which he is creating, the sangha, that drives. Now, or being a supervisor of the material energy, for Krishna service. Is it not? That's another role which is given. Or as soon as you get it, offer it to Krishna. Is it not? And it comes and goes. Right? No. Comes and goes. That's what the Lord is offering. That's what the Lord is mentioning. So one should be very serious in following the injunctions. Especially Prabhupada stresses on, the man-woman relationship should be very formal. Exactly, it should be very, very formal. The more formal it is, the better it is for everyone involved. Formal, completely focused on Krishna. Is it not? That's the point. The the more loose it becomes, the more the tendency of getting trapped in the whirlpool of sense gratification. That's what happens. Now the next point which is given is Jnana Yoga Vivasthiti. Being engaged in the cultivation of knowledge. So when we talk about cultivation of knowledge, cultivation involves two aspects. The first aspect is the first aspect about cultivation is practicing. one should not so one should not uh, so it is explained that one should not just surround himself with knowledge, but one should or one should not just hear knowledge and just let it be, but one should actually drive it to the point of manifestation. Knowledge automatically does not translate into manifestation. It has to be driven into manifestation. Is it not? And that is the homework of every sadhaka. So that's first aspect of cultivation. So when one tries to apply into practical application, uh, then we say, okay, that knowledge becomes realization. So jnana, so and it is that realization which can uphold the devotee, not just knowledge. Bare theoretical knowledge cannot uphold a devotee or cannot uphold a person, but realized knowledge can. So this is cultivation. This is first aspect, and the second aspect is sharing. Sharing. So certain things we may not be able to appreciate or we may not be able to catch happening in our own lives. We can catch happening in others' lives. Is it? And especially the nature of spiritual knowledge is if it is not shared, it becomes stale. If it is not shared, it becomes stale. So the more we share, the more we can see the practical aspects of the spiritual knowledge. The more it helps us, and the more we can help others. And this cycle goes on. This cycle goes. So therefore the injunction is cultivation. This injunction is for everyone. This injunction is for everyone. For the other three ashrams, it is there in a regulated sense. For a sannyasi, it is there exclusively. That's the only difference. But everyone, so who is supposed to preach? Everyone is supposed to preach. Preaching is a part of sadhana bhakti. The Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu established it like that. So it's a limb of sadhana bhakti. Sharing. And sharing is possible when we are practicing. Because what are we going to share? So what we are churning in our hearts is what we can share. So therefore the cultivation has these two important aspects which should be our focus. Practice as well as so one is practice as well as sharing. Sharing. And both augment each other. So one who is focused or he is putting efforts and strenuously trying to follow, he will be able to better understand and help others. And one who is focused on helping others, then he will get a good lot of practical insights for himself as well. So both go together very nicely in resonance. Both go together. So so that is called as jnana yogena vyavasthiti. So much cultivation should be so much. How much cultivation should be there? Cultivation should lead to at least it should lead to cultivation should lead to an upliftment. Is it not? So how much upliftment? Upliftment is reflected by stability. Is it not? So the testimony that one is cultivating knowledge properly or not is he able to stably stay? Is he able to stably continue his practice? That's a testimony, is it not? It's quite interesting. So the cultivation should be so much. So cultivation leads to basically upliftment, na? Or cultivation leads to levitation, is it not? So one is levitated up, and he should be able to stay there in that levitated state or uplifted state. That's the point. And that's reflected by stability of engagement in Krishna consciousness. Stability of engagement. So such a devotee becomes stable, predictable as well. Is it not? No. Like we may understand, okay, this devotee is is sacrificing devotee. He is humble, sacrificing. Not that only few moments the humility is existing. That also great difficulty after hearing lecture, after attending yatra, for only some time. Other state, he goes into active volcanic burst out. So no, so that stability will be there. He's humble means he's humble. that kind of pattern will come. So this happens by cultivation of knowledge. The knowledge has to be churned. The next item is charity. Charity is meant for the householders. A householder should earn a livelihood by an honorable means and spend 50% of their income to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. Thus, a householder should give in charity to institutions of society that are engaged in that way. Charity should be given to the right receiver. There are different kinds of charities, as will be explained later on. Charities in the mode of goodness, passion, ignorance. Charity in the mode of goodness is recommended in the scriptures, but charity in the mode of passion and ignorance is not recommended because it is simply a waste of money. Charity should be given only to propagate Krishna consciousness all over the world. That is charity in the mode of goodness. So the injunction is very beautiful. Either, uh, the injunction is very beautiful. Either, don't have anything to give and take with the mental energy. That's one principle which is given. Okay, So brahmachari life is possible. Even now today, brahmachari life is possible. If one, if one doesn't want anything to give and take, then okay, don't enter congregation preaching and don't enter fundraising. Finish. Is it not? Then just do deity seva, youth preaching. Is it not? Then one can no touch, like that, or make arrangements and see that indirectly it is offered to Krishna. Is it not? So with that distant model, so the brahmacharis who do congregation preaching, they also follow this model. This is the model which sannyasis follow. This is the model which congregation preacher brahmacharis also follow. So what is the model? No very intimate interaction, but make an arrangement and a system that it goes on. In what direction it goes on? It goes on to Krishna service. Is it not? So the point is that once that setup is there, because there is distance, one will not be able to tune it to one's own sense gratification. Is it not? Oh, that vehicle is moving. Is it forward? That's the advantage of it. Na? Or you have it, get material facilities, and as soon as it comes to you, offer it to Krishna. No? Like that. So Grihastha is nothing but a go down in charge. No? That's the point. Very quite interesting. Grihastha is nothing but a go down in charge. So so it is a misnomer. People think, okay, I am becoming Grihastha, so I have a license for regulated sense enjoyment. Krishna is not telling that. Krishna is telling you can become a go down in charge. So, so you can keep track. Okay, this much money. This is how the money is coming. This is how we can procure the money. This is how we can channelize it in Krishna's service. Just go to Grihastha means go down in charge. Nothing else. Is it not? So no forgery. No forgery is going to be penalized, right? That's the point. That is the point which is explained. So that's why the disposition of charity is given. And the Vedas are glorifying charity of Shivi Maharaj. The charity is so much so that one's own body and flesh one is ready to offer. So obviously not just for a material cause or a humanitarian cause, but for a spiritual cause, the cause of service. So then Prabhupada is speaking about Dhamma, that is self-control. It is not only meant for other orders of religious society, but it is specially meant for the householder, sense control, specially meant for the house. Although he has a wife, the householder should not use his senses for sex life unnecessarily. There are restrictions for householders, even in sex life. We should only be engaged in the propagation of children. If he does not require children, he should not enjoy sex life with his wife. Modern society enjoys sex life with contraceptive methods and more abominable methods to avoid the responsibility of children. This is not in the transcendental quality, but is demoniac. If anyone, even if a householder, wants to make progress in spiritual life, he must control his sex life and should not beget a child without the purpose of serving Krishna. If he is able to beget children who will be in Krishna consciousness, one can produce hundreds of children. But without this capacity, one should not indulge only for sense pleasure. So the next important principle is self-control or sense control. Sense control. Sense control. And Prabhupada is telling that this is not just for other orders. Sometimes, because that is the fashion. The fashion is to think that, okay, sense control is not meant for grihasthas. Sense control is only meant for sannyasis and brahmacharis and maybe vanaprasthas who have done with it. Who are done with it. Oldies, they don't have the capacity now to enjoy, so they have to, so then they don't, they have lost the capacity to enjoy, so therefore they are on that note. No, Prabhupada is saying especially meant for household. Especially meant for household. Especially meant for household. So it is especially meant for householders. So basically, what is being highlighted is take responsibilities, is it not? See, a grahastha, quite interesting here. No? It's quite interesting here because the matrix has said that okay, a grahastha should he should take responsibility of raising a child and offering him to Krishna, training him and offering him in service to Krishna. Is it not? So that responsibility one should take. So if one is, so that means the focus is to take the person towards that kind of responsibility. And that responsibility, if one takes, then actually that is the responsibility which a preacher takes. That okay, anyone who comes to me, I'm going to help him go towards Krishna. Is it not? That is the actual responsibility which any preacher takes. Is it not? No. So that means that ashram, the whole motivation is okay. That that okay, at least be completely focused on at least one or two children, and at least help them in Krishna consciousness, or at least help wife and children in Krishna consciousness. But the actual emphasis is take responsibility to help people in Krishna consciousness. That is the only thing, is it not? So all the ashrams, if you see, therefore, are talking about one thing: give up sense gratification and take to the responsibility of practicing very seriously and sharing Krishna consciousness. That's all. So now, so sense control is brought about by sense channelization. Sense control is not an imagined phenomenon. And the practical and only way rather for for achieving sense control is to keep the senses so busy in Krishna service that there is They are completely saturated with that. There is no opportunity for any indulgence.